Hello everybody, my name is Virtual Age Viking, and I am here with a little bit of Age of Empires 2. I recently got into Age of Empires 2, very recently. I played it when I was young, quite a while back, and I picked up... I've been just looking for like a good real-time strategy game. I've been kind of off StarCraft for a while. And a friend of mine suggested, just mentioned that Age of Empires 2 had a remaster. I hadn't really looked into it that much, and I looked into the Definitive Edition, and I've been hooked for the last few days now of just kind of playing it whenever I can. I was spending some time with some campaigns, things like that, but I've started just doing skirmish modes. I want to kind of get a feel for like what 1v1 feels like. This is just against the AI, nothing super exciting. But yeah, so I hopped on and have just been kind of having a good time doing some skirmishes. I don't actually remember offhand what my opponent is, and I'm not sure how to check that. Mayans. Yep. I knew it was some kind of Mesoamerican because, yeah, they were sending Eagle Warriors and stuff at me. Anyway, I just played this game, and what I kind of want to do, this is largely for myself, to be honest, is I'm kind of just going in and watching them and kind of getting a feel for what I did right, what I did wrong. What I'm playing against is moderate AI, and I'm just kind of playing them repeatedly. Moderate AI it's getting to where I beat them pretty consistently, but this game got a little spicier. And I may be cranking up the difficulty before terribly long, but I kind of want to wanted to watch this one out and see how it played, because I thought it was a really fun game and I thought it was interesting. I'm very new to this game. I did play when I was young, but never, like, back then I never knew, like, there's an order to do things, right? And I'm still just kind of figuring it out. I haven't, like, looked up a whole ton of, like, guides or anything. There's a couple little suggestions I've seen that I kind of stick to. But for the most part, I'm just trying to get really comfortable with the game. So I'm going to go ahead and unpause this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about, just as like a brand new player, what kind of stuff I'm thinking about, and maybe people have suggestions or things like that for ways that I can improve in the future. Because I'm having a good time with it, and I'd really like to jump into online play before terribly long. I'm just trying to get very comfortable. Obviously, I'm playing as the Vikings. That should come as no particular surprise. That said, I'm not super married to them as like a main civ yet. I just defaulted to them because thematically I like Viking stuff, and I get on well with that. I like the infantry health bonus. It's really nice. It gives me a little... It makes my units a little more forgiving, which has felt really good. But there's some other civs I kind of want to play around with. But for now, I've played probably about 5 or 6 skirmish games as Vikings at this point, just kind of getting to know the game. I played once against Standard and just absolutely obliterated them, so I was like, okay, we're going to stick with Moderate for a little while. All right, let's get this started. So, as you can see, it takes me a second to kind of get my things clicked around, but something I believe I had seen suggested was having 2 villagers start one house and another villager start a second house. This makes it so that this house, I believe, constructs fast enough that you can go straight into another villager at this point. I'm also queuing up. You can see I've got just queued up movement for the scout, who's just going to run around a little bit. I believe he finds a couple of cows or something up here as well, which is fantastic. I really haven't smoothed out the early game. I know that there's notes about, like, how many villagers you should kind of have handling the herded animals and things like that. I've usually done about 6. I also haven't really incorporated grabbing boars. I know from watching various other people play that that's, like, an important thing that I should be doing. I just haven't really incorporated it yet. I'm still kind of getting a feel for things. Something that drives me nuts, this is a tiny little pet peeve here, is this tree right here, like, kind of hides my villagers when they come out. So I think at one point I put a waypoint, like, right here, just so I can see what the heck I'm doing. So yeah, I've kind of just got the scout running around. I notice I've got this... So I make a couple mistakes here. Now, I believe these are mistakes, and these are what I would do in the future. I tend to habitually go put a mill directly next to berries right at the start, like fairly early on. I don't know the correct time to do that, but I do it kind of when it feels right. And I should have put the mill here, because there's actually, like, a ridiculous amount of fish here. It does get tapped out pretty quickly, but it would have been a huge boost to my food, I think. But it's all right. I think it ends up being relatively minor in the long run. But my economy is, yeah, not nearly as efficient as it could be. I'm going to take a look at these cows for a second. So, yeah, these are all the same. Okay, I wasn't sure if, like, different kinds of cows had different amounts of stuff in them or what. So I'm kind of just scouting around. I found a little bit of stone here. Obviously, I found a decent little gold pile, 2 gold piles. So I have really good... I like the location of these gold piles because obviously my opponent's going to be down here in kind of the southwest of the map. And these are very, very back here. They're very well defended, so I'm going to have access to those later on. So I think I should have 6... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 villagers. You can see that I haven't really optimized how they move. I don't know if 6 is correct, but it kind of feels right. It's where they are kind of not running into each other too much. Yeah, you can see I've waypointed the villager off to one side just a little bit. I place a lot of value in wood early on. Again, I don't know if that's the correct thing to do, but I usually try to get a pretty good-sized lumber camp going as quickly as possible. One thing I'm never really sure about, I really hate these little patches of trees like this. I always wish I just had like a big-ass forest so I didn't have to think about it later, but I have to do a lot of moving my lumber camps around as this game goes on. Going to continue scouting, which is great. Scout's killing it. I actually enjoy kind of the mini-game of like clearing off the map while things are going. I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing good about constant villager creation. This is stuff where some of my skills from StarCraft... I'm not an amazing StarCraft player, but I have just kind of played it off and on for years. Some of the skills I picked up playing StarCraft have stuck with me, and trying to kind of maintain constant worker output is a thing that I've definitely kind of spent time learning. I'm going to turn the Fog of War off for a second. Whoops. Because I just kind of want to take a look at what he's doing, because I genuinely had no idea. So he's got a little more houses. He's got his mill set up. He's got his lumber camp. So he's doing he's got a similar layout to what I've got going on. He does have, it looks like, 8 villagers on here. I kind of feel like the moderate AI is generally going to have a decent sense of kind of how to start. So I feel like mimicking them to a certain degree isn't the worst thing in the world. And as you can see, I have a very similar layout to what he has. I think I have a slightly stronger economy. Let me see if I can jump to... So I have a little bit more in the way of villagers, just a little bit heavier on that. And yeah, not super wild. We're very, very, as you can see, the score is very, very close. I'm a little bit ahead, probably just because my economy is probably a little stronger. I don't... No, that's an interesting secondary lumber camp, but cool. I get another house down. Let me make sure that I'm on my thing here. We're gonna go ahead and turn Fog of War back on, just because I kind of want to stick with my view of it as much as possible. But we'll go take a look at the AI once in a while. So one thing that I found on this map, and actually I'm gonna pop all visible for a second, is this is a thing that kind of ended up becoming a factor, kind of, as time went on. There is so little stone on this map. I've got my stone here, and I want to say there's... I don't even remember where there's another one. There's so little stone. Oh, there's a relic way in that corner. I had a rough time with stone later on. Thankfully, it wasn't a huge deal, but there's very, very little. So that's definitely a thing that came up quite a bit as the game went on. Here's where I was like, I should really be fishing. I believe fish is very good food, and yeah, you can see it's like there's a couple hundred food on each of these, and that's fantastic. The problem is because I put my mill over here by these stupid berries. My fishing is extremely awkward, and this was me testing out and trying to kind of get a feel for what this amount of, what long distance fishing like this is going to feel like, and it wasn't super great. I have a moment that I quite like here. I usually am actually very, very slow to be aggressive. I like keeping it kind of chill for the vast most part, but I was like, hey, let's send just a couple of militia out and see if we can like get a little bit lucky. I am very slow to pick up loom, which you can see. So my villagers have 25. His have 40 health right now. If he had not picked up loom, so this is where, like I said, I tend to be a very slow, non-aggressive kind of player, and so I don't think of my opponent as being aggressive, which causes problems. I kind of noticed how he placed this and was like, I bet you I could sneak a couple villagers here. And yeah, they got stuck. Exploded the AI a little bit, but you know, mess with his economy a little bit. So I have 24 villagers to his 21, and I'm going to kill 2 of them here. I do lose a militia, but I like this trade overall. I don't feel too bad about it. Taking him down to 19, and I'm at 21. That's, you know, keeps me ahead on economy. And I go ahead and wander my militia back. It was just kind of a nice little poke. It's not the spiciest thing in the world, but I thought it was neat. Worked out well. Still trying to keep constant villager output. Usually I am actually going to feudal at about 22 villagers, but I think I spent a little more time on economy on this one, and I actually think it hurt me a little bit, oddly enough, because my opponent does end up, I don't know, we end up very, very neck and neck early on. So honestly, it probably was a good thing, but I usually do it at about 22. That's not really deliberate, that's just kind of when my food happens to be a thing, but I think part of the reason I ended up with more villagers here is this economy was a little different than I'm used to. I'm not used to having fishing nearby. I've not really had that come up. That's one of the things that I've really liked about this game, actually, versus, say, StarCraft. I love StarCraft to death, but one of the things in StarCraft is that there is no RNG about your resources, really. It's pretty much the same every time, right? Like, you have your minerals and your Vespene gas and stuff set up in a very specific way every time. And it doesn't really change. You're able to rely on that, which means that that first couple minutes can get really boring because you're kind of just doing the same thing over and over and over again. One of the things I've enjoyed quite a bit in Age of Empires is the slight RNG of kind of where your resources are at the start. And it's made it, I don't know, I find it really fun because you have to adjust, right? You have to be constantly adjusting. As you can see, I'm going to the Feudal Age. My opponent is just a little bit behind me. So that's one thing as well I try to do is I've tried to kind of get a feel for like timing my advances really close to when the AI does it. And I always feel really good about myself when I successfully like nail it, when it's like, oh, we did it at like the same time. As you can see, the AI hasn't really scouted me. I don't know how the AI's like visibility works. So I don't know if that matters really, but I try to be pretty proactive about scouting. I don't actually know what my scout is up to at this point, though. I think I might have lost track of him for a second. See if we can we find the scout? Operation Find the Scout. Oh, here he is. He's way up here. Yeah, I was trying to clear out a little. I think I was trying to check out what kind of resources I have available later on. So as you can see, my fish is starting to get a little low. I've got some kind of awkward worker idling going on here, but it's fine. And I'm going to be hitting Feudal Age in just a second here, and the opponent will hit Feudal Age right after me. Unfortunately, so I have gotten better over a number of skirmish games about trying to make sure that I'm ahead of the AI as much as possible. This game, spoilers slightly, I do get a little bit behind, but I don't know, we'll see how it works out. This is a great game. This is actually probably the funnest skirmish game I've played so far, so it was a really good time. I get my blacksmith going. I'm kind of playing around with the idea of getting 2 blacksmiths, but I think, and this is another thing that I think is really interesting about this game, is having to be really thoughtful about what you're planning on doing. So they've just hit Feudal Age. And so the only reason, really, I think, this is my intuition so far, to go double blacksmith would be as if you're trying to do like a really varied unit composition, like where you're like, hey, I'm gonna have like horses, archers, and infantry, so I'm gonna kind of need everything, and I'm gonna want upgrades on everything. That I didn't really have a plan with this one. I think this one I was thinking about going archer heavy because I've never really done that. This isn't really the civ to do that with, but I was like, let's try some archers. We'll see how that plays out, but yeah, I was like, all right, let's get some early archers. I don't usually do that, you know. I usually kind of stay light on archers. I tend to be kind of reactive and see what they get first. But I was like, hey, I'm gonna be proactive a little bit, and I'm gonna get some archers, and that's gonna be my thing. I don't know how early you're really supposed to start getting gold. I kind of like getting ahead of gold and stone early. Some really, really good player, I think, mentioned getting a little too ahead of yourself on collecting stone, but I like to have plenty of stone when I kind of move on to Dark Age, so I believe I do start setting up a stone camp pretty soon. My villager output, I think, is still pretty good. The opponent's at 27, and I'm at 27, so I'm keeping up with the AI on that, which feels good. I do have a little bit of idle workers, though, so if you think about it, I'm basically a couple workers behind, as long as I'm still doing that. Still trying to keep up on that, and our score is absolutely, like, neck and neck. Like, you can see every time one of us gets, like, a tech or something, one jumps slightly ahead, and then it just catches right back up again. I think I had forgotten to turn on automatic farms at this point, and I think I notice in a couple seconds here. Yeah. No excuse, really. I need to remember to do that. I usually just do it out of habit, but again, my economy ended up so weird because I was trying to like figure out how to react to these fish and stuff like that, that there's just a couple things I missed. This guy is taking a break. He's just gonna chill until the end of time. No, he'll get up and do something soon. So these Eagle Scouts kind of start wandering around. I don't even know why I got these spearmen. I think it was just as like, hey, I got some resources. I want a couple more bodies to stand in front of my archers. That's the extent of my thinking. It didn't really go beyond that. Let's take a look at what the AI's got going on. So they're building an archery range, and I will say that they got a little bit ahead of me here. Because they also decided to go archers, and they built 2 archery ranges and started making that happen. So they went a little more heavily on archers. Now, the thing is initially here, I actually have more military. So he has 39 villagers. No, sorry, he has 31, I have 32. So we're neck and neck on villagers, but I have a little bit more military. So I should be kind of ahead, but he's got that infrastructure for building more, and I think he techs better than I do. I also house myself for a second, but that's fine. We sort that out pretty quickly. Did I ever get this guy moving? Wow, this guy hung out for a long time. I wonder what he was doing. Weird. These couple of villagers, I think I get them set up on gold or some such. Yep. And I go for a little bit of aggression here. I was like, I don't know. I think I just figured I'd go see what's going on. I brought a villager with me on accident, which was good. So I'm going to pop off Fog of War for a second here, and you can see he kind of ended up with a lot of villagers that a lot of archers quicker than I expected. I thought that my kind of mixed unit comp would be a little bit better, but because it's infantry, his archers were just really good. And I ended up kind of just losing all this stuff. Which, you know, it happens. I do start feeling a little bit behind at this point, because I'm like, oh boy, he's ahead of me on military by quite a bit. I don't really know what I hope to accomplish with that. I think I just wanted to try to, like, clean up, be like, hey, I got ahead of you on army, and I killed your guys, and I'll pick off a few villagers and leave. But didn't really play out that way. And as you can see, his score starts getting way ahead of mine. So I'm like, oh, okay, I better get another archery range, which I think is probably the wrong... Well, no, so it's the right move, but it's because I went, hey, he's focusing heavily on archers. I need to switch to skirmishers, right? So I start spamming out skirmishers. I still have, like, a scout, and I think I start... Yeah, I was going to say, I should have a stable going up right now as well. I want to get some cavalry so that I can kind of hit those archers a little more quickly. So as you can see, I'm still kind of chilling in Feudal Age. We're going to jump to him. He's still in Feudal Age as well. I want to say he advances quicker than I do on this one, but I don't remember for sure. So we will see. I don't have a... So far my thought about housing placement is I kind of just try to put them, like, out a little bit away so that I can sort of get a sense of, like, I don't know, it just gives me more space, right? Like, I have more map vision by just having my houses out. Did I ever get Loom? I still don't have Loom. I skip it early on. I always kind of, I tend to end up getting stuck on, and yeah, as you can see, I've largely stopped, so, like, I could have just done it at any point here. But I tend to get a little bit stuck on outputting villagers at all times, that I'm like, when do you fit in Loom? I need to figure out when kind of the ideal time to do that is. At the moment, thankfully, because he's kind of leaving me alone, it doesn't really matter that much, and I do believe I get it eventually. So, okay, I'm starting Castle Age. Does he... Yeah, he's like a couple seconds ahead of me is all. Okay. I will say, again, spoilers, his Imperial Age is much quicker than mine. I know that, and that messes with me a little bit, but... I'm trying to keep up on upgrades on some level, I believe. So you can see I've got a couple things going on, but I need to get a bit better. But I have a tendency to kind of look at it and go like, I don't know, infantry upgrades. And there's actually more specific upgrades that I need to be focusing on. I get a handful of scouts. Not the strongest thing in the world, but their entire purpose really is to just rush down archers and keep them engaged. So I'm really just kind of doubling down on trying to kill archers at this point, because one thing I've seen in skirmishes is that the AI tends to get very hung up on the unit type that they start on, and they don't adjust a whole lot. So I was like, all right, like, if I don't know, I feel like if I got attacked like this and they saw that I had, like, multiple archery ranges, my instinct is to, like, change what I'm doing, right? Is to immediately be like, all right, that means he's probably going to build skirmishers or cavalry, right? So I should like hard switch over to like swordsmen and pikemen and stuff like that. So yeah, this is kind of me just seeing if this plays out. I'm trying to get a feel for how these fights are going to go, right? So I have the cavalry kind of pushing up front, just being being disruptive. That's kind of their main purpose. All the skirmishers just kind of clean up archers. I actually look away from this fight, so I'm going to watch it for a sec because I have no idea how this actually played out. I'm curious how this actually went because I lost track of it at some point. Really, the thing I'm happy about with this, even though I did lose a lot of guys, is I just didn't have enough. Is I did clean up quite a few archers and kind of kept his army from getting out of control. But it was a loss, right? Like I don't think it was a terrible loss. I think we ended up, on a relatively even military count between my stuff that's at home and this stuff. But yeah, as you can see, his score is getting pretty ahead of mine. A lot of that, I believe, is like upgrades. But, I tried to start getting up on upgrades. And at this point, I'm like, okay, all archers isn't going to work. I need skirmishers. And I need... and I'm seeing that he's kind of switching to things like he's got skirmishers. He's got a lot of other stuff going on. I was like, all right, I need skirmishers and I need better troops. So I'm putting out some knights. I was like, I want just tankier guys. And I want tankier cavalry specifically is what I'm trying to say. And I need some just better infantry killing because he's not going for cavalry at all, right? This villager, I have a weird habit of like catching villagers with my army and like sending them out. So something I start kind of getting to here is, so I got, this was a big goof here. I should have just let some of this continue to mine out. This was kind of gone, and I was like, I need more lumber, but I realized I didn't have enough lumber for a lumber yard, so I had to do this like big long distance mine thing that just ended up being a terrible idea. This was just a mistake that just puts me actually very behind for a little bit. This was like a solid minute of just really screwed up, wasted resourcing. But it's all right, and then like I have a couple farms that go out. I lost a lot to that little bit, but because I was, I started getting that stone going, I was like, okay, I'm gonna put kind of a forward castle here. It's not that forward, but just a defensively forward castle. I do tend to end up with a castle a whole lot earlier than the AI does. How am I doing on? So I have 39 villagers to his 36. And I want to say he doesn't really build more villagers than that. That's about how many he ends the game with. So he's kind of done with villagers, whereas I keep cranking it up, and that ends up being extremely relevant, I believe. So, because my economy ends up way bigger than his. Something that I actually didn't think about during this game, and I should have done it, is I should have built another town center. I never built another one during this game. I probably should have built like 2 more town centers. I could have done that pretty easily. And I think it would have helped me push my resourcing a little bit. I could have boomed a little bit more, because I have time here. I know that his military got toned way down, and I know I've got some time. He's not building up a huge army, and I can just play defensive for a little bit. And I should have kind of recognized that and really leaned on resources for a little bit. But I think I was getting nervous because of how far behind my score was getting, because it's pretty far behind. And I was like, man, he's got some serious stuff going on. And I'm not 100% sure where his score is coming from at this point. I guess I can look. As you can see, it's mostly tech, which, and a little, it's mostly tech. My military is higher. My economy is about the same, but his tech is way, way higher. And that's relevant, but I think the AI might inflate their score a little bit by just getting a lot of weird techs that they don't need, which isn't good for them, I guess. They're keeping resources low, but they've got a lot of food. They have so many people on food. They've got 17 to my... I guess I have 16. Well, there you go. 12, let's see, 5. So I'm going to bounce back and forth a little bit. We actually have extremely similar resourcing layouts. That's really interesting. That's kind of cool to see. I have never looked at that, and I've never even looked at like how many villagers should you have on things, and so it's kind of nice to know that at least the AI seems to agree with how I've kind of managed out my stuff here. I do end up I stockpile a little bit too much food, but that's partly because my wood is so low. Like I really want to just be pumping out like skirmishers and stuff like that, but my lumber is just trying to catch up. And I am deforesting hard. Let's see, do I have... I wish I had recognized how large this kind of forest is, or even this area. Like, if I set up a lumberyard here, that would have been really good for quite a while, but it's okay. Or here, yeah. But, I don't know, these spots are fine. They're very functional. But as you can see, yeah, I'm just fighting with lumber, and I have a bad habit of getting the market really, really late, but I did get it, and I use it to even things out a little bit. So... something I'm playing around with, I'm really bad with the Siege Workshop. I don't use it well. I don't use Mangonels very well. They're very awkward for me. But I was like, I know the Mangonels are supposed to be good against archers, so I guess I'll get some of those. I started building up some walls. The problem is I don't really have a plan for, like, actually walling everything off. And so there's also a mistake here. This wall should be up here. If I had placed this wall here, because I hadn't recognized quite yet how bad the stone shortage was going to be. And if I place this wall up here, then I'm able to protect this stone spot a little bit. And I think that would have helped me quite a bit. Because I try to take this stone at one point. It just does not work well. What I would have preferred here, actually, is these walls here, this castle over here. I think that would have been better positioning. It's still up on a hill, which is great. One thing that comes up a lot, actually, is this hill right here. I end up having to fight up that quite a bit. Also, something I didn't really recognize, the AI collects so many relics during this game. I get one. I end up with this one over here. But the AI collects, like, 4, I think, like, pretty early on. They end up making an insane amount of gold. Where is their... I don't actually know what their monastery or whatever looks like. Where is it? Is that it? Yeah, that's it. Man, they hid it way back in there. Anyway, so at this point, I'm on my 2 archery ranges. I'm on 1 barracks, 1 stable. The only reason I haven't built... I feel like I need more of those production things, but I haven't built more is just because wood is has been such a pain. And part of it is I end up a little bit slow on getting my lumber camp upgrades, which much slower than I should have been. All right, we're getting attacked here. They decide to send in an army. Thankfully, it's not huge, and you see me kind of with the mangonels, like, trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing, and part of the problem is I hotkeyed them wrong during this, and I think I hit my own stuff a little bit, but it's not too bad. Like, yeah, not a huge deal. It's fine. Like, I think they did okay, but I'm still trying to get a sense of them. I also have a bad habit of just getting berserks for no reason. I'm not in love with this unit. I wish and that's probably the thing that's killing me about Vikings, even though I love them, is berserks just are kind of fine. Like, they're not very interesting to me. I wish they were a little bit spicier, I guess. I've got 50 villagers to, yeah, again, his 36. He stays there. I have double his population right now. Chunk of that is villagers, but I also just have a lot more army. You can see now my score has shot ahead. Let's see if I can get a look at... Let's see, how do we check what that score is coming from again? How did I check that earlier? There it is. No, that's the wrong thing. There we go. No, again, that's resources. I don't remember how to check score. I just checked that a second ago, and I've lost track of it. Oh well, whatever. It's not a big deal. So I start spamming out berserks in, like, absurd quantities, and what I do here is I try to build... I think I pulled these back when I got attacked. I'm trying to build a gate and a mining camp so I can start taking over this wood, this stone. As you can see, it's not like I'm super behind on stone or anything, but, like, I sure wish I had more. And the opponent has quite a bit, but they also haven't built a castle yet, so, you know, fair enough. I think I saw him moving a monk around and tried to move my army towards him, and I always forget how slow everything is in this game. Like, I was like, oh, I don't need to walk over there. That's silly. It's also just, I don't know, I'm used to in StarCraft, if there's, like, an enemy walking around your base, you go murder that thing, whereas in this, like, sometimes stuff's just kind of wandering around, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. I probably could have had this knight go kill him real quick or something, but I don't know. I picked up that relic. And then I kind of just proceed to forget my monastery exists for quite a while. My mangonels are wandering off. Yeah, good times. There's not a lot going on for a little while here. I'm just kind of building out, you know, I'm building houses. I'm trying to kind of man it. As you can see, I have a ton of villagers that are just idle at this point. And so I think I take a second here to kind of start cleaning that up, because I'm like, all right, I've let my poor economy go into kind of shambles here. Our score is now neck and neck, so that fight went really well for me, and kind of taking the time to boom up a little bit has like really helped me catch up. And I was like, time to attack. Spoilers, it is not time to attack, but hey, you know. Part of the problem is that I attack, like, he's an Imperial Age. He can get upgrades, like he has access to upgrades that I can't get. These mangonels kind of mess me up a little bit. Also, these freaking Eagle Warriors actually really screw up my cavalry. I think I don't know. I need to look into, do those counter cavalry? Is that my understanding? Because they're like spearmen? I don't know. I haven't really looked. I get a little too far ahead. Like, that's the problem. I lose control of my army a little bit, and I don't keep them where they need to be. So they take a lot of damage. They don't really need to. It's kind of a lot going on, but at this point, behind this, there's a point here where I go, I just need more production. I need to be able to produce more things. And I need to get to Imperial Age, and I need to do that. I try to kind of slow down letting this castle go up. This is, again, a thing I don't have a great feel for. Like, was it a good idea to sit and attack this castle? The answer is probably not. I actually lose a lot doing this. And all it really does is make it so the castle takes slightly less time to die later, which doesn't end up being a huge deal. I do clean up this barracks, but this guy cleans up my siege weapons, which is a little unfortunate. Wow, I didn't even notice this. This monk just wanders right past me with these. Like, he's just chilling. Or, no, I think I do stop. Okay, good. This guy comes up there. Oh, yeah, I remember this relic was sitting in the middle of the battle for a long time, and I was like, what's that doing there? As you can see, I just lost a lot, and all I did is take, like, a third off of a castle. Like, I screwed myself up. I get behind on score. Berserks just don't do anything into all these archers. Like, it's not very interesting. This wasn't a good engagement. There was no reason to really do this. But, you know, still getting a feel for that. And that's fine. So I was like, all right, listen, I'm in a way better defensive position. I'm just gonna tank up and do my thing. I start trying to, I kind of, like, get this idea that I'm gonna, like, make a giant wall around everything, but, like, I don't know how you wall this. It's so big. What I probably should have done is just create a funnel thing where it's like, well, if you want to attack me, you have to walk all the way over here, but I don't know. Our scores end up neck and neck again. I'm kind of catching up on things. I think I accidentally, where do I have the, yeah, I have these set to way out there, which is a little silly. But yeah, I'm starting to get trebuchets. Trebuchets are where the game really spices up to me. I'm going to put a wall across here, a wall right here. I'm going to kind of create an artificial wall line that's a little further back so that I can kind of defend it better. I don't think that ends up being super relevant, but I don't know. I like the idea. I like walls. As you can see, I have a ton of idle villagers still. Let's see if I can figure out kind of what they're doing. So I've got this group here, which this was the stone group here. They started getting attacked by archers, so that's part of the problem with them is they're just kind of hiding right now. And then there's just like random ones scattered around. And again, at some point or another, I go, oh, and I start cleaning that up. So this is me going, all right, what I'm going to do is I feel like he can't really attack into me. The problem is I don't have great units for defending my trebuchet, like, against stuff, but I should have just leaned on the fact that, like, archers aren't going to kill a trebuchet anytime soon. Like, it takes them, like, 150 shots or something, because I think it's minimum 1 damage. So I was like, all right, this trebuchet can kind of just chill. Like, it'll be fine. I should have relied more on its super high pierce armor. At some point or another here, I promise I go in and clean up all these idle villagers. I know that I do, but I'm very confused about when that actually happens. I'm a little behind on gold. I think I moved some villagers around to gold. At some point or another here, it's a little ways in, but after a while I do start getting monks. I get like 4 or 5 monks, I think, to just kind of hang out with my army and heal stuff, which I actually think ended up being pretty good. We get out a couple of trebuchets. I just kind of want to start sieging him and force him to come fight me, and trebuchets are really good for that. I just should have leaned on the fact that, like, trebuchets have really high pierce armor, and I probably could have just let them do their thing, because since he's just doing archers, and just make a little wall here and go, okay, you have to come fight me in melee. I guess the problem is the archers can then pick off my infantry, so again, it's just a case of, like, keeping them back, move up if something melee comes up, otherwise just hang back and let archers bounce off of them. So we're going to make sure that these castles never go up, or this castle goes down and this castle never goes up. And at this point, I believe I really start going, I need to be producing a lot more units. I've got the lumber and I've got the food. My gold's behind, but because he's going so heavily on archers, I can just lean on skirmishers for the most part that don't cost any gold. So just, you know, trash units. And I'm going to supplement, I think early on I supplement that with berserks, but eventually I go, I'm going to switch to a combination of heavy cavalry and two-handed swordsmen. And I lean on that for a while. So you can see I dropped down 2 more archery ranges. I was like, I need to just be outputting skirmishers in absurd quantities, basically. Like, that's what I need to be doing. I love this, like, very aggressive archery range up here. It's, like, way up there. As you can see, our score is still, like, neck and neck. Some of my time is going into kind of constantly babysitting this whole deal here. And he's going to come up and see if he can kind of mess me up a little bit. So at this point, the big thing is protecting my trebuchets, right? They are basically going to win me the game if they just stay alive long enough, and unfortunately, I lose one pretty quickly. Unfortunate, but, you know, it happens. You know, I've got a good line of troops. These guys kind of get wandered off, which is annoying. The problem is it's so many of these berserks that just aren't doing anything for me. The mangonels really screw me up. So, yeah, it's a little rough. It's a rough fight, but it's not a fight I lose exactly. I don't know, I kind of lose it, but the big thing is that I kept one of my trebuchets alive, which is a really good chunk of resources that I get to keep on the table. At some point, I will clean up all of these idle villagers. I don't know how I didn't notice that for that long. Usually I'm checking idle villagers really regularly. I think I was just really distracted with trying to get all this figured out. And I think I was a little unsure what to do with some of them because they were sort of meant to be doing other jobs, and I hadn't, like, mentally adjusted. I think I was kind of scanning around trying to find wood or stone, I mean, and just, like, was not finding it, really. Because there's just not that much. There's, like, this pile way over here, which, I mean, that would have been nice to have. That probably would have been plenty. That's the thing. It's I think I just didn't need that much stone. Like, I think I had plenty and probably just needed to stop thinking about it. So at this point, I'm like, okay, well, he doesn't really have enough to actually threaten me, at least. Like, not in a big way. Especially my castles. Like, he just doesn't have anything that's going to clean up my castles anytime soon. So, and because I destroyed his castles, as you can see, he doesn't have any castles. He cannot build trebuchets. And that's kind of the big thing, is that because I have trebuchets and he doesn't, that puts me in a very advantageous position, and I kind of knew that. Okay, you can see I finally go, oh my god, my villagers, and start getting them moved around. I think I get this other gold thing going, because I'm like, I need more gold. Where are my idle villagers at this point? So it's just, yeah, a couple of the ones built an archery range. I've hotkeyed up all my archery ranges at this point, and I'm just like, alright, I got 4 archery ranges. At some point or another here, I get a second barracks. The stable researches cavaliers. Cavaliers. Why did I say cavaliers? Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's some world where it's pronounced that way. I don't know. I still don't really use the siege workshop for anything because, again, I'm just really bad at, like, siege stuff. One thing that's kind of funny is my army composition. I basically have, like, the cavaliers that are able to destroy battering rams, but he sends a few battering rams in, and it takes me a bizarrely long time to kill them. I don't know what that guy was doing. Like, you can see there's a lot of resources I just kind of throw away. Like, a ton of stuff just gets tossed. But, you know, it's alright. We're learning. Yeah, I mean, he does the same. He loses so many guys to just, like, you, skirmisher, kill that castle by yourself. But I think he's wanting to kind of get a screen for this ram, but, I mean, I have all this. He just can't really move up like that. But I was like, alright. I gotta get some things done here. My castles aren't doing a whole lot. I think this is about the point that I gave up on berserks. I was like, those are not working. They're just kind of they're just a non-starter. And I hadn't really hit the point where I start going for the swordsman yet. He's got all these archers. The problem is I'm having a weird situation where the skirmishers are cleaning up the archers, but they're kind of having a hard time with everything else. So like, Cavaliers are great, but they're very expensive, and they take a while to build and stuff, so I was like, I need more than that going on. So, yeah, I build this second barracks, and I start going, it's time for just, yeah, two-handed swordsmen. We're just going to start pumping those out. And the barracks is, you know, getting more archer armor, stuff like that, trying to get my skirmishers and stuff into a better position. And I was like, hey, I can finally start moving forward. Because now I've just got all these, and a big part of that is that I've got, you know, 50 guys to his 36, right? His resources are tapped all the time, just keeping up with me, whereas I, at this point, am floating a ton of resources. Like, I believe at this point, like, pretty soon here, I just start hitting the skirmisher button and I don't stop. I just start putting them out. And this is kind of where, you can see, like, the game was getting away from me a little bit early on, or kind of in that mid-game. But as my trebuchets are coming out, and as I kind of get, like, this critical mass point of just resources and economy, I just start rolling in, right? And at this point, what it is I'm like, okay, I just need to defend a trebuchet position and move up slowly, and that's what I need to be doing. And if I can just defend this position from all these archers and stuff, and this is the problem, is Eagle Warriors do so much, and I think I didn't recognize this during the game, but now that I'm sitting here watching it, these Eagle Warriors are tearing up like 5 or 6 guys a piece before they drop down. And so I needed, and this is where so I wasn't sure why it was, because I was like, two-handed swordsmen feel like the right move to me, and I wasn't really sure why, and I think, yeah, like, and they did work, and I wasn't sure why, and I think it's because they're killing these Eagle Warriors. I think they're getting in there and making those less of a nightmare. But again, I start realizing that, like, my economy is in a... You can see I just start laying on the skirmisher button. I'm getting that research. What is it? Champions. I'm getting champions out. I'm like, all right, we've gotten away from berserkers. A big problem with the berserks too is I just never really had the resources to upgrade them to elite berserks. So I was just like, I'm never gonna get around to this. Let's just gun for two-handed swordsmen. It's going to be easier. It's going to be faster because I have multiple because I have the barracks going. Yeah, I do have 2 castles. I could get a lot of berserks out, but still, I was just like, at this point, the best thing I can do is I just need to defend while I leapfrog trebuchets, right? My score is starting to get more and more ahead. I don't think he ever gets a castle up, and I think that's a big part of the problem he ends up having, is he just doesn't have the ability to react to what I'm doing. He does get one of my trebuchets with these battering rams that just run it, and this is a problem. And again, this is where the two-handed swordsmen started coming up. I just didn't build a correct reaction to these battering rams quite quickly enough. Like, they just roll into the middle of my army and do whatever they want. And thankfully, I get those dropped, and this fight was just very fun. This was just a really fun fight that I was having to do, of this constant kind of switching up my army composition, moving things in, controlling these trebuchets. Like, it felt like the right amount of micromanagement where I wasn't overwhelmed, but I was, I was having a good time. I thought it was just a lot of fun. Again, I feel like having like 3 town centers at this point, helping me output villagers to just like, because at this point I started recognizing that my bottleneck was now food, which was funny because I was floating so much earlier that I was just like, food's not a problem, and then went, oh my god, food's a problem. So eventually I start getting more farms and stuff like that out, and managing the economy in this game while doing fights is so much fun because everything's so much more slow paced compared to games like StarCraft, that you're not like losing your mind trying to keep up with these things. I pulled my trebuchets back. They're very damaged, but we're gonna end up getting a couple more of those before long. Well, if he keeps trying to like put these really aggressive archery ranges in positions that I am like currently like holding. Let's see if I can get a look at what's going on with his. So he's building just so many arbalests, and it's like at this point it's like you need to switch your unit comp, man. Like, that's the thing that's killing him, is I have so many skirmishers and he's building so many archers, and he just really wants to build more archers. The problem is this is not an army that can just like roll into his city and start destroying things. But you know what does destroy cities? These bad boys. They do a great job. So we're gonna get them packed out, and at some point I build two more trebuchets because I was like 2 is too slow. He's kind of sending these monks into the middle of my army all the time, but I was like, what I need to do is, again, I'm in a position where he can't attack. I think I've hit the critical mass point of just my army's too big for him to catch up with. Let's just slow roll in and get, you know, get these trebuchets doing their thing, even though they have very, very little health. And that's what I do. I'm on pretty, you know, you can see I'm spamming out Cavaliers. There's me laying on the skirmisher button. I've got it kind of queued to just end up here-ish. And yeah, we're just gonna lean on that. We're gonna hit the button a whole lot and just lean on the fact that my economy is stronger than his. Because yeah, it's 34 to my 55 villagers. I do have a few idling right now, so I'm more like kind of high 40s most of the time because I'm bad about idling villagers. But yeah, as you can see, I'm in a pretty good spot at this point, and it's just a case of closing it out, right? Yep, there we go. A couple more trebuchets, and yeah, at this point, I've got my upgrades in a pretty good spot. I think I could upgrade a little bit more. I'm bad. Oh, is that? There's score. Yeah. Okay, figured it out. Nice, okay. Population, villager. Alright, there we go. Learning to control the replay thing. Very cool. Yeah, he tries to build a castle here. I'm like, no. Well, what do you think you're doing? Don't build a castle there. And yeah, everything's just kind of turned into rubble here. And yeah, at this point, it's just a case of I've got 2 sets of 2 trebuchets that are just going to kind of leapfrog their way up the field. I believe this is the point where I start getting a handful of monks. And I waypoint them up kind of closer to the front of the army. And yeah, they're going to come up and kind of start healing things. They're not for conversions. He's not building anything that's like expensive enough for me to be trying to convert anything. I was like, I'm just going to sit and heal a lot. I probably could be more aggressive here, but I was like, the safest thing I can do is just move up trebuchets, move up soldiers, do that over and over again, while the trebuchets kill everything. And yeah, we're gonna crank up the playback speed a little bit because there's not really a whole lot to touch on here because you can kind of see how this is going. But yeah, I've got monks coming in, healing stuff, just moving up the trebuchets, making everything die. His score is way lower than mine at this point, and you can see my queue of troops is just huge. I'm queuing up. Like, I finally got my economy to a spot. I was using the market a little bit to get more gold as well, and I got my economy to a spot where I'm just pounding out units that are for gold. I've got tons of everything. Like, that's the thing, is I could have almost twice as many production buildings at this point. And, you know, I would run out of resources, but I would have a way bigger army. And we're just going to kind of move up and clean everything up. This was just a really fun game. I liked the back and forth here in the middle for a really long time. I thought that was just a cool, like, really long-term fight that was a really good time. And yeah, it was just a really good game. I feel like I got a lot out of it. I learned a lot of little things. The initial sort of having to look at the map and figure out things like, how do I react to the fact that there's fish here? How many guys am I putting on here? I reacted incorrectly, but I kind of recognize that. Figuring out these defensive positions, I think maybe I could have pushed out and made a really aggressive castle on this one, been like up here with it, and I think he would have had a hard time dealing with it, but I'm not sure. That could have been a thing. And yeah, otherwise I feel like my early game's getting a lot better. It's just a case of kind of that mid game and how to transition into the later economy and things like that I'm kind of making mistakes and sort of figuring out. But yeah, I mean that's about it for this one. I'm learning a lot. If you have any suggestions or things like that, like I'm still learning. I'm kind of avoiding super hardcore tutorials right now just because I'm sort of getting a feel for things, but there's some things that I've learned. Obviously, I'm using, you know, terminology like booming and some early game things, and I'm kind of getting to where I'm like, I'm figuring it out. I'm starting to learn how the game plays and what the cadence of the game is, and I'm gonna be getting into, yeah, like I'm gonna start looking into things like build orders. I'm gonna start doing things like experimenting with other civs before terribly long, but I'm gonna probably do a few more games with Vikings and just kind of keep getting a feel for it. I just want to play with some slightly different unique units and things like that, and unique techs and that kind of stuff, and get a feel for different tech trees and things, and see what I enjoy doing. I do like the very infantry focus of Vikings. Like I like the kind of foot infantry, but I don't know. There's other civs that probably do it a little bit better in some respects that I could probably lean on. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for a little while. This was a lot of fun. I just again, like I said, this is a lot of it's for myself, being able to go back and kind of analyze my own game. But I figured, hey, I'll record it, throw it up, see if anybody's got any suggestions or anything for me. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time when we do this again, probably. Yeah, bye-bye.